All right, good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock in Gardner, Kansas. We'll call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I assume everyone's here for the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. I figured that was popular. Yeah. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. We have a proclamation. Our first proclamation is for Autism Acceptance Month. And so if anyone wants to come up, you're welcome to come up with me. When we read it. A lot of Gardner gold. Okay. So, whereas autism is a developmental disability characterized by a range of success and challenges with socialization, communication, and behavior, and whereas the symptoms of autism typically are present before age 3 and often are accompanied by abnormalities in cognitive functioning, learning, attention, and sensory processing. And whereas autism affects 1 in every 44 children in the United States, is 4 times more likely to occur in boys than in girls, and can affect anyone, regardless of race, ethnicity, or other factors. And whereas the need for early intervention services begins soon after a child has been diagnosed with autism to significantly improve health outcomes, reduce the level of funding and services needed to treat people with autism later in life. And whereas people with autism can be and are productive members of the workforce if they are given appropriate support, training, and early intervention services. And whereas individuals with autism, like other Americans, should have the opportunity to realize their ambitions and lead rewarding lives. And whereas with the autism diagnosis rate increasing fast, we take these 30 days to celebrate the differences of, learn more about, and empower autistic individuals. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Todd Winters, Mayor of the City of Gardner, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Autism Acceptance Month in Gardner, Kansas, to increase understanding and acceptance of people with autism spectrum disorder and to address the diverse needs of individuals and families affected by autism. Thank you.
One, two, three. Thank you.
You want to say your name before you sit down? You want to start?
My name is Corinne.
Back.
I'm Teresa.
Teresa.
I'm Dylan.
That's Mackenzie.
All right. Welcome. Thank you, everyone.
That's what goes by.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. So next, we have a proclamation for Fair Housing Month. Whereas the Fair Housing Act enacted on April 11th, 1968, enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And whereas the City of Gardner is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all, whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities, and whereas more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists and many communities remain segregated. And whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunity are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Tom Winters, Mayor of the City of Gardner, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2026 as Fair Housing Month in the City of Gardner, Kansas, as an inclusive community committed to fair housing, and promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of the City of Gardner. Thank you. All right, Matt, are you coming up for this one?
I have all my staff here too.
Oh, yeah, they are. There. You go. This is our award-winning finance staff. So we have 3 presentations, and again, award-winning every year, always on top. Very proud of everyone here. The Government Finance Officers Association, which is the GFOA, has recognized the City of Gardner with 3 prestigious awards for excellence in financial reporting and budgeting. The first, Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2024. And that is this time. All right. Thank you. Next, they also were awarded the Popular Annual Financial Reporting Award for fiscal year ended December 31st, 2024. The PAFR was evaluated on reader appeal, understandability, distribution methods, creativity, and other elements. And I like that because that puts it, explains it like I'm 5. That kind of say I'm ready. Okay, so that's this one here. And lastly, the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the annual budget for fiscal year 2026, recognizing the city's commitment to transparency and excellence in financial planning. The award is the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting. In addition to receiving the award, the city also earns special recognition for its capital program. That is this one here. Beautiful award. Got it. All right. Congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Matt, you get to take this. All right. Okay. Next, we have a presentation, the Gardner Chamber of Commerce update. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you.
And Chamber.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for giving us the opportunity to give you an update about what the Chamber has been up to. So we'll get started. Once again, I'm Beth Felsky. I'm the President and CEO of the Gardner Chamber of Commerce. And just once again, our mission, we're the catalyst for business growth, a convener of leaders and influencers, and a champion for a strong community. So we try to stay true to what our mission is in everything that we do. I'm just going to highlight a few things relevant to this past year and then a little bit of forecasting of what's to come. Obviously, we do the ribbon cuttings, and that is in cooperation with the city. We had 8 this past year. We do these for new and expanded businesses, and these are open to the community, the business community, as well as the general community to attend. We have several networking coffees a year. This year we had 22, 2 per month. Those have had great attendance. I think our last coffee we had at Hope Market was was right around 50 people. So we are really excited to see the amount of people that are coming together for those networking coffees. Special events, we do those throughout the year. I will say we try to be very strategic and purposeful about our events. And we'll continue to look at those, analyze those, and make sure that they're really fitting a need, not only for our business members, but for the community. I'll do a quick flyover of just some of our work, and you can see there, obviously, the numbers and stats of where we fell this past year. Calls for service, obviously, with the increasing population, calls for service has increased as well. And so we continue to meet the service demands that are increasing. So phone calls for a little bit of everything, and oftentimes it's just helping people find the right resources in the community or at the city, whether it's relocation, licensing, general questions. Social media and website are a really important part of what we do. It's interesting, our website, we find, is a resource not just for our members, but for the communities. So people are coming to our website to find out information about Gardner as a whole. And obviously, we're really excited about the new website of the city. Heard some great things about that and just connecting the two. And so that's been great to see the increased traffic, and we hope to really enhance that in the upcoming year. Workforce development is really a huge part of economic development. That starts with our community profile information, job postings. We have a lot of partnerships in terms of workforce development, and then also some areas of HR. Our resident relocation and visitor information, we distribute on an as needed basis for a variety of folks in and outside the community. Our Gardner publication, known as the G magazine, we continue to kind of modernize that magazine and make sure it's really fitting the needs. We changed that up a lot this year and did some fun things and added some new things, but I think it really highlighted the Gardner community and what it stands for. It also includes the information, our business member information, and additional resources. The chamber newsletter is interesting. That is not just for chamber members, that expands throughout the community. And someone said, I really like the chamber newsletter because I think it helps clarify things in the community and just helps educate folks. And so we continue to enhance that as well. In the area of tourism, I really think this is a growing area and a lot of potential, especially with the additional hotels coming to the area. We know youth sports is a huge driver for tourism, not only, especially in the Midwest, but specifically to this area. And so we have done several things, in terms of just our publications and some work there. We tried a map this year, and, I've mentioned before to some folks, I really questioned a map with all of the technology. We've had great feedback on this map, and this year we really just stuck with, some basics about Gardner, parks, schools, have those available at the hotel, various public locations, and that has been extremely popular, so we'll look to kind of how we continue to enhance that moving forward. We have, our distribution points. Obviously, the library is a really successful place to get information out. We have regional initiatives that we continue to partner in. This is important just from a marketing standpoint and to be able to share, the cost of marketing regionally. So several organizations, listed there, TIAC, KCRDA, Visit Kansas, KC, and working with the Department of Commerce. An example of that might be a passport for the region that identifies a theme. So in the summer, if people are looking for sweet treats, we can, highlight those areas, or parks to visit, or museums to visit. And we can identify a couple in Gardner. There might be others in the county identified, but we partner with that, so our reach is much larger by doing that. Continue to educate ourselves through our regional conferences, and then we've added a new travel and tourism committee. We did this kind of as a trial basis with the World Cup to kind of see what the needs were and take feedback for folks, and then help educate folks about the impact. And I really see that growing, like I said, with some tourism opportunities here and with the additional hotels. What the Chamber has decided to do for World Cup is really focus on what we have here in Gardner. So whether it's someone coming into Gardner or someone who lives in Gardner, celebrate the World Cup, but really bringing folks to our businesses to do so. So a fun way to recognize, but also making sure that, you know, if people are going to watch a match as opposed to paying thousands of dollars for a ticket, we encourage them to watch the match in Gardner. And so we've had great response from our businesses in terms of wanting to be a part of that. So we're excited to see what that brings. In terms of public policy and community, we also have a lot of partnerships in this regard. We're part of the Johnson County Public Policy Council that looks at legislation that is good for business, pro-business policies, and it's mostly about educating folks. So we connect members with our elected officials. One of the ways we do that, some of you have participated in our candidate forums and questionnaires. And then we have a shared website where we post that information so that voters can be educated, and then just encouraging people to get out and vote. We can provide letters of support and grant participation for legislation that supports our businesses. Leadership Gardner is really an important program that we do, not only to educate and cultivate leaders in our own community, but to give folks exposure to what other communities are doing. Great program, about 8 sessions. We'll continue to grow that. And then, of course, we have State of the City on Thursday, so we will see you there, and excited to connect our members, help connect our members with updates and things going on in the city. In terms of economic development, which can mean a lot of different things, obviously we work closely with Jim and the rest of the staff, but some things the Chamber has really focused on the last few months is our downtown committee. We're really working to get a unified voice from the businesses in terms of what can help them be successful, how we can work closely with the city for revitalization of downtown, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But we've also conducted just some educational meetings for our downtown business and property owners. So we continue to maintain a list of the property owners and businesses, and try to inform them and give them opportunities. One thing we did was revisit the destination downtown plan. There were a lot of new people that had never seen that, didn't know it existed. So had the opportunity to partner with city staff in presenting that. And then we did a panel with KDOT, and we had someone from Mid-America Regional Council there, just to talk about, I think the most beneficial thing there was to talk about KDOT's role versus the city's role versus the county's role. So just doing a lot to educate and help cultivate some real positive conversations. And then also, you know, what's the responsibility of the businesses? Most recently, we're going to have our first HR roundtable, which is workforce development. Again, it's so important for economic development. And really, we're going to start this as just an opportunity for those businesses to connect with each other in terms of resources. I'm going to invite Tim Miller to come up and talk a little bit more about our efforts downtown.
Good evening, everybody. we started this committee 7-8 months ago, and we're meeting once a month with a handful of downtown business owners. And we've, obviously the chamber has gathered a list of the downtown businesses and their ownership so that we can communicate with everybody in that group. There's 2 different subcommittees. Right now we're working on branding. Main Street Creative has offered their services to help us brand Gardner Downtown. We're also in the pre-study of our sidewalks and maybe having a common theme layout to replace or repair some of our failing sidewalks for downtown. Also talking more about bringing people here, whether they're community members or from out of our community, partnering with Ash and Anvil. Derek and Tamla are here tonight, Transport Brewery and Warren Place, and using their triangle locations and with the revamping of the alley behind Transport leading to Ash and Anvil, creating more excitement and more visitation down there. And then you guys can see the rest of the stuff on the screen.
Thanks, Tim. Tim has been great, just knowing a lot of the history of the community, but also with some of the new folks in the downtown area, and just had some great conversations with that group, and I'm really excited about the momentum. One of the things that we've looked at specifically at the end of this past year was our strategic plan, the Chamber's strategic plan. And so I'm going to have Tricia, our board chair, talk a little bit more about that and how that aligns with the city.
Thanks, Beth, and thanks, Tim, and thanks for having us here this evening. I think what's exciting on my years being involved in the Gardner Chamber and on the board is how we've taken it to another level as it's grown and tried to understand what the city's trying to accomplish and what we're trying to become as a small community growing into a larger community, and take our responsibilities with the city work plan and make sure that they align and that they have some sort of metrics or objectives, and as we have ideas and we do the normal copies of that, how can we do things that are more impactful, maybe bring more return on those time, monies people spent. And the last fall we took a good hard look at our list of events and our work plan and started aligning it, and we actually met for a good part of a day and said, let's take those and let's look at the results and see where those impact each other. And as we did that, we came up with what we call 4 core pillars of focus, and inside those what we wanted to do is take each of our executive board members will be a committee member if you're a leader of that, as we have different events or community engagement or businesses that call in to say, or events, how do these align with that? And in each of those we've taken the time to look at what do we want that outcome to be and how does it align with the mission as well. And one of those being finance, and I think as far as finance goes, we have a budget, we have certain ways we spend, we have certain ideas. People come to us all the time wanting us to do different things. We collaborate with different associations and development in the city, so how do we look at that and make sense of it? And so our treasurer will take part in that, who that is, and look at those numbers and look at the input and look at the outcome and see how do we most maximize the results on that, and not just kind of at the end of the day make sure something's happening and is there money at the end of the year kind of thing. And then the partnerships, I think partnerships become about each of you, they become about the community, they become about businesses, they become about new businesses. I'm a local person, I've been around this area most of my life, I'm a small business owner out of Lenexa, but we work together where there's lots of people coming and looking at Lenexa, and how do we get more engagement from those partnerships and those bigger community members, because getting that and supporting what the council and economic development's doing, how do we have the right message to support those partnerships, plus do things like local hope market or the community, the churches, the things that impact the everyday people, Because the community, that's what they see, what touches them, what do they need, and how do I see the chamber somewhere? If I call them, do they know what they're doing, do they know what they're saying? So taking those partnerships very seriously and making sure we have the resources for that. I think that some of the downtown's council's been a really strong growth area for us. I know that we've tried to learn a lot more about what the city's doing and making sure we can do right things there. So just knowing more and understanding more. And we're taking that down through our ambassadors as well, so that they are also aware and acknowledging and representing the same way. And they're excited about that, because I think before they were just there and wasn't sure what to do with their commitment and their volunteering. And then brand and communications, Beth had mentioned about the website, and whether we like it or not, technology's it, and that's where people go, and that's what they do. And we have a lot of investors, and they want to be able to go to that and use it, and people looking at the city. I mean, it's a first glance thing. Is it easy, and does it represent? What does it say, and does it have the, we post for a lot of different organizations or foundations, that sort of thing. So there's some work that definitely needs to be done there, not to make it more user-friendly, to make it a true resource, because I think that, in the world of technology, you can make the work of that become the work of 3 and 4 people. And I think in a group like we have, that's something that we have to focus on doing, and we're excited about. And then how do we push out communications, and how are those timely and accurate and easy, again, for people to access if they need that for whatever need, because we're here as the community and for the city, so how they access that information. And we're focused on looking at it incrementally. How do we improve that and make it easier to continue to make it real information, timely information. And then I think last is programs and events. We keep looking at those things, and there's lots of ideas. We've been very successful with the Leadership Gardner, and it's really fun and inspirational to see the young people want to learn about city government and all the places they've taken them, and lots of graduates from that. And there's some nice businesses that are investing in their younger leaders and learning about that. So I think Leadership Gardner is good. And then, of course, we talked about the World Cup. Anything we can do to help as well bring those things together as a part of the community and draw more people. So I think the important thing is that we're not just kind of doing things as they were. We're trying to take it to a growth level and making sure that we're getting a return on our time and what the community is trying to accomplish as well. So we appreciate it.
Thanks, Tricia. I just have a couple more things. Once again, here's a list of our board of directors. And we have several volunteers, as Tricia had mentioned, our ambassadors, who are fantastic for us as a small staff. It's myself and 2 other part-time employees, Laura and Jennifer, and they do an amazing job for us. But we really couldn't do our work without our ambassadors, who really go out, check on our businesses, and then all of our volunteers for our events and our partners. So we truly value their efforts as well. So, we look to continue to grow and to also collect feedback from our businesses and communicate that to those in the community, to really continue to make Gardner a better place and make sure people are spending their dollars here in Gardner. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate it. All right, Matt, we'll move to outside agency budget requests.
The city contributes funding to several organizations that provide services to Gardner residents. The purpose of the presentation tonight is to summarize the 2027 funding requests of the governing body. My presentation tonight will also include an update on the Economic Development Fund and the Special Alcohol and Drug Fund, both of which provide funding for these outside agencies. This slide shows kind of a list of the different agencies and the amount they've requested in 2026, and then what they're requested going forward in 2027. Chamber of Commerce is asking for $75,000 in 2027. Gardner Historical Museum is asking for the same amount as last year at 25. UCS, Human Services Fund, is asking for the same amount as the prior year. Johnson County Utility Assistance Program, and then also the Rental Assistance Program. Overall, they're asking for the same amount, but they want to move $3,000 from utility program to the rental program. And the Drug and Alcoholism Council is asking to increase to $42,000. The Gardner Cemetery Association, it basically submits a budget to the Gardner Township Board, and the city of Gardner generally pays for about half of the Cemetery Association's budget. This request of $58,432 represents a 22% increase over 2026. The Cemetery Association experienced a significant increase in costs after their longstanding contractor retired from his business. In 2026, they covered approximately half of the increase using contingency funds. They were not able to find a more competitive bid for 2027. So now they are building the entire cost into the 2027 budget. Other items include an increase in compensation for the part-time sexton, to be more representative of their expanded job description, and there was also an increase in waste removal services. Please note the Gardner Township Board and Gardner Cemetery Association are still looking for ways to reduce their budget. This current request might be reduced in the near future, and I would look at the $58,432 as the maximum request, and they're working to get that down. And then at a previous city council meeting, the city council discussed potentially increasing the level of funding for Project Grad, and that would be discussed further during the budget process. Well, here tonight we're discussing funding requests for outside agencies, so staff is looking for direction on what to be included into the 2027 budget. So a quick snapshot of the Economic Development Fund. Projected expenditures include requests for the Chamber of Commerce, Gardner Historical Museum, the Gardner Small Business Assistance Program, the Retail Coach, the city's recreation event promotion activities, and a transfer to general fund to support economic activities that we now perform in-house. Those account for about $378,600 of the 2027 budget. The remaining amount is $453,300, and that's for the projected annual debt service on the turf fields at Celebration Park. So if you look at the fund overall, we had $408,000 in revenue last year. We started with a $774,000 balance this year. We expect the new hotel to open up sometime soon, at least by 2027. And that would probably bump the expected revenues up in 2028 to about $718,000. So over the 10-year lease of that ball field project, we'll be running a deficit, which would slowly drain the fund balance over time. Unless a third hotel opens up or some budgetary changes, this fund may need assistance in the future. The Special Alcohol and Drug Fund, the annual revenues are approximately $82,000. The new funding request from the Drug and Alcoholism Council is $42,000. The city's contribution towards a mental health co-responder and Project Grad also come from this fund. The fund is projected to have an ongoing budget surplus. It will continue to build fund balance. And that is all the outside agency requests.
Thank you, Matt. Now, you want us to give you specific direction with these?
Yes, if you have any basically requests for information, or if you basically want to give some guidance on what to do for like Project Grad or anything else that jumps out, please let me know.
Are you wanting consensus on the amount for Project Grad tonight? I know we've discussed it, but we never really.
If you need more time or more information, I mean, we can do it at a later meeting, but this was the outside funding agency request where we generally get this and we start putting in the budget, the operating budget. Right now, as you can see on the slide, we're leaving it at $3,000 unless we're directed by the consensus of the council to change it.
He's nicely saying yes,
Yeah.
that's direction,
Right.
but he's not gonna be, knocking down our doors if we don't give it to him.
Yeah, it's a placeholder regardless.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is.
personally, I want some more information that I didn't warn you about, so I know you don't have it on the special alcohol and drug fund. Our co-responder is only, we're only contributing 20,000, and I think we are very close to needing our own, correct me if I'm wrong, needing our own co-responder or needing to contribute more because we use it more than the people that we share it with. So my concern to run that fund down would be if in the future we need to hire our own co-responder or contribute more to be able to have more co-responders in that group we contribute to. I want to make sure that it's there.
That is accurate. Based on our numbers from 2025, I would expect in 2027 that we may need to have our own co-responder. I would expect that they'll tell us in 2027 for 28. I think they understand the budget cycle. But I do think that's coming. I think that's correct.
Pam, do we know what the full rate would be if we had our own?
There's a funding mechanism. So currently we share with Johnson County and Spring Hill, but we are by far the largest user. And there is a funding mechanism for some of the other cities in Johnson County that have their own, and I don't know exactly what it is. But I would guess it's going to be around $65,000 to have our own. But that, again, is just a guess. I can get that relatively quickly.
Right now, the fund shows about a surplus, if you compare 27 projected versus 25 revenues, about 17 to 18,000. That should grow a little bit, but I mean, if it's a full-time position, I'm not sure how that would cover that.
I am meeting with Johnson County Mental Health tomorrow to see if we can use the opioid funds. We have the guide, and we have a meeting in the morning to go over the guide and see how their protocols fit the mandates from the opioid fund guide. So I'll have more information on that after tomorrow.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a few things that could be more information coming forward. So maybe we do hold off on that particular, the project grad.
I just know a fund balance of 262, if we have to hire a full-time position out of that, is going to drop very quickly. And I just want to make sure that we're prepared for that.
I think the other thing to think about though is, when I looked at the numbers too, when I presented the project grad numbers, we were bringing in more money year over year. So it's something to think about. I don't know that you would draw it down as quickly as you're thinking.
And I can model out the fund. Like, I have another presentation coming up in May where we talk about like budget highlights or initiatives. We can bring back the conversation then. I think it's the second meeting in May. And I can model out the fund. And after that time, we'll have all the operating and maintenance requests too, so it'd be easier to do.
I think that'd be a good idea. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Matt. And then I believe you're also going to speak on the capital improvement program.
So, kind of a high-level look at the process for the CIP is here tonight. I'm presenting the CIP draft to the City Council. Then in May, we'll take the CIP draft and it'll be presented to the Planning Commission, where they review it to see if it's in conformance with the comprehensive plan. And then it's not actually finally approved until September 8th, and it's the 27 through 2031 CIP would be considered along for approval with the 2027 budget. So that's kind of the general timeline. On this slide, it shows basically where we're making all of our capital investment into different types of improvements like airport, electric, water, wastewater, parks and rec, and streets and storm over the 5-year period. Please note that these numbers include grant funding and debt proceeds. The total planned capital investment over the 5-year period is approximately $97 million. And this includes nearly $38 million in grants. And as we go through the presentation, I do want to point out a few of the projects may have some pre-construction costs in 2026 or earlier years. The CIP reports in the agenda packet show the prior year expenditures for each project. This presentation focuses on the planned capital expenditures that occur in fiscal years 27 through 2031. Also, please note that this presentation is just highlighting some of the major projects. There are a lot of small projects also in the CIP that aren't in this presentation, but they're all listed in the CIP reports in your packets. So for park improvements, for the turf ball fields, we were planning to originally do that in 26, but it's kind of, we're trying to time it along with the new hotel when it opens, so we have transient guest tax coming in. So now it's scheduled for 2027. And it's anticipated to be financed with lease proceeds and the annual debt service supported by transient guest tax. As we mentioned earlier, the annual debt service will likely cause a deficit that drains the fund balance over time. And another funding source may be required to help cover the debt service. And part of that reason is we're careful on the useful life of assets, where we don't want a term on the debt that goes out too long if we think we're going to have to start replacing the fields before that term's over. And then the Stone Creek Park Playground replacement is scheduled for 2027 and will be funded by park impact fees. Also in 27 is the pool rehab project, which is funded out of special parks fund, which basically is funded by a third of alcohol tax. And then in 2030, we have the pool play structure replacement, Celebration Park playground replacement, and the reconstruction of Celebration parking lot projects. Typically, projects like the pool play structure and the playground improvements would be paid from either Special Parks Fund or Parks Improvement Fund. However, they are unlikely to have, or it's unlikely they'll have sufficient revenues. It's all development dependent. And generally, for most parks projects, it's do we have the development revenues like impact fees, or do we have grants available to help pay for those projects? We've included them in the CIP just for planning purposes at this point. Celebration parking lot, we don't really have an identified funding source for that yet, but we know that is going to be a need coming up. For streets and stormwater infrastructure, we have 167th Street Center to Moonlight reconstruction. Should be starting this year on at least the design and construction next year. Moonlight Road, warrant to 167th Street in 27. Gardner Road, 186th Street to BNSF in 2028. And then we have two projects related to the I-35 and US 56 interchange. The first one in 27-28 is for temporary improvement, or I guess interim improvements for like a signalization, and I believe a turn lane. And then we're also looking at a reconfiguration project, possibly in 2029. It's all grant dependent. Then 175th Street, Osage to Waverly in 2029. Then 183rd Street, Gardner Road to Moonlight. There's an overlay project in 2030. Then we have another major road reconstruction project, 167th Street, Kill Creek to Waverly. That's basically the MARC grant, which helps fund these reconstruction projects. I believe it's what, every 2 years? Or, so that would be the next one in that program. And then Gardner Road, 188th Street to 186th Street in 2030 to 2031. So we have a lot of street projects planned. The Special Highway Fund, development revenues, and bond and interest fund all contribute to helping pay for these projects. And I want to highlight the bond and interest fund component to this because council's previously directed staff to keep approximately $10 million in GO bond capacity for infrastructure projects in the bond and interest fund to help fund and support economic development. Please note this capacity can cover actually a greater amount depending on the timing of the debt and how it's structured. But we are using a lot of it for the planned 5-year CIP. It also includes Clare Road and 175th Street project, which is occurring this year. And for that Clare Road and 175th Street project in 2026, that project is anticipated to have a lot of development revenues associated with it and road contributions from developers. Think Panettone, Clare Crossing, all the ones around that area. But those development revenues will come in over time. So what we do is we issue bonds up front, We carry the principal and interest and bond and interest using that capacity, and then development revenues will come in over time and rebuild that capacity. I-35 and US 56 reconfiguration. The project's dependent on grants. The local match is currently estimated to be around 5.2 million. The debt service would be covered by bond and interest. 167th Street, Kill Creek to Waverly reconstruction project. Basically, the Special Highway Fund doesn't have capacity to take on more projects. So this project would be funded out of bond and interest, and most of the funding would come from a MARC grant, but our local match would be about $4 million. And basically for our arterial reconstruction program, we're not looking to probably do that long-term bond and interest, but just to until the debt starts falling off in Special Highway. Then for airport infrastructure, we have the terminal building in 26, 27. Just kind of an exception to this presentation. While I focused on 27 to 2031 costs, I did include the full cost for terminal building. It's mostly in 2026, about $133,000 in FF&E in 27. Why I included it all is it's all dependent on grants, and I mean that could shift years basically. So there's a chance it could move back to 2027. Also want to highlight on this page, some of the funding sources aren't just your typical airport funding sources, but we use loans from the electric fund. Airport's a small fund, it doesn't have a lot of cash, and all the grants are basically reimbursement. So we borrow money from the electric, we short-term finance like a project like either of these projects, and then when the grant comes in, we repay the electric utility. For electric infrastructure, we have new Substation 5 land acquisition in 29, 2030, and we also have Substation 2 T4 upgrade. Funding source for the electric fund, you have charges for services, electric connection fees, and then just a reminder, we do have a small capital reserve of about 3.6 million. For water infrastructure, we have the new water intake structure in 27, very large project. And then we have a 183rd tower rehab also in 27. We have planned water rate increases of 4.7% through 2031. That's to help pay for the new intake structure. Then we also, this year, we're, I believe, beginning work on the transmission line, which is another large water project that the rates would help pay for. For wastewater infrastructure, we have the oxidation ditch mixers and rotors in 27, Madison to Main Street relief line in 28 and 29, Nike lift station, force main, and then a wastewater treatment plant advanced nutrient removal in the future. We have planned wastewater rate increases of 4.2% through 2031. That's not only to help pay for these projects, but also that very large Kill Creek Resource Recovery Facility project we're in the middle of right now. And that's all of my, all the projects for this year, or for the 5-year period.
All right, thank you, Matt. Council, do you have any questions? Did you get that answer?
I have a few.
I do have one. Is it possible to the projects that you added to the agenda, is it possible to add just a blurb about the potential start time and duration of each one of these projects, just to give us an idea of, oh, it's going to be second half of the year, or winter or summer, something like that. It doesn't have to be very precise, but and then kind of a duration if we're talking. I know some of this it shows it's 2 years. Some of these other projects may be a month or 6 months. I don't know how long the field replacement might take. Just out of curiosity, I don't know if that would help anybody else.
I can talk to departments to see if they are able to do that. Sometimes it's depending on grants, but a lot of them are, if they're routine grants, we should know. If they're not routine grants, it might affect things. I know projects move around a lot, but I can look into that, see what we can come up with.
On the US 56 I-35 reconfiguration, 26 million. Did you say the local match is 5.2, so that's only our piece, or we're fully funding the 26?
No, we're gonna talk about that later.
Okay.
That's
Good.
what, one of the,
Okay, I got you. And then, Jason, what's the 181,000 for the pool rehab?
Put a drain in the bottom of it.
It's not filling it in.
I think it's a two-part. One is getting the pool filters covered, and then there's some slide maintenance that needs to be done as well. Might be another piece, but I can't remember what else is in that. So I know it's those two for sure.
I know the project, the play structure project was for 2030. We've been missing a slide in that zero entry play structure. It's been like, is that going to be fixed before 2030, or are we just?
So the issue with that structure is those replacement parts become obsolete. We've tried to, I think, replace it twice, I think, since COVID. And since that is a suspended slide, and those poles that go into the zero depth entry, things don't line up. We can't find replacement for it. So,
Okay.
but that 600,000 is for a full replacement of the entire thing.
Okay.
We did sandblast it last year when we painted the pool project to help extend the rest of the life of it.
Okay.
And then, I know we don't have a funding source, but Celebration Parks parking lot, can we really wait until 2030? Or is that gonna be gravel by then?
That's bad.
We probably can't wait. That's more for the engineers or Parks and Rec to speak to. Problem is, we just don't have a funding source. Like most of our projects have dedicated funding source of some sort, nothing for parking lots. And based on preliminary discussions, I don't believe our infrastructure special sales tax can be used for it because it wasn't specifically mentioned as a use.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. So now we'll move to public comments. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. If you wish to come forward, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. There is a 5-minute time clock on your left. That being said, come forward and state your name and address for the record, and the podium is now open.
My name is Aaron McNear. I live at 28222 West 162nd Terrace in Copper Springs. I think it was Trish was her name. She made a kind of good comment earlier that kind of coincides with part of the reason why I'm here tonight, transitioning from a smaller community to a larger community. While it's obviously needed with the growth of the city, one thing that I just don't want to see lost is the commitment to the residents that put down their roots and buy their homes here and have been homeowners for long times here. So within the last 2 weeks, a lot of frustrations have happened in Copper Springs for a lot of residents. Going way back to several years ago when it was rezoned from duplex and townhome zoning to multifamily zoning with the tall grass structure. While the structures look great and everything's great from the outside, when you look at it from the roads in, last on the 24th, at 9 o'clock I called the police department to see what time construction companies can keep doing jobs. And the job at hand was a guy in an excavator slinging giant rocks around and crushing them up with an excavator all the way through 940. The police officer responded, was very cordial, was very nice, and his understanding was that they had till 10 p.m. at night. Never heard anything else about it from there. So on the 30th, I got home to a giant dust storm, and probably no more than 100, 150 feet from my house, 25 feet from the neighbor across the street from me's house, was a rock quarry going on in the middle of a residential area. No kids on our street were able to go out and play that night. That night was probably 75, 80 degrees. On one of those days, it was super windy, and all of a sudden, the rocks that they were digging up the day before, or a couple days before, were now being pulverized into gravel, right behind residential houses. So while those things have been addressed, one thing I do want to make sure is that we do have a commitment to residents moving forward, that there's going to be better oversight, there's going to be better policies and better procedures in place to take care of that. There's no reason why any resident in the city should have to deal with this type of behavior from a construction company just going rampant, especially late hours and excessive dust and excessive noise to do that. The other kind of general issue with this as well is barriers between residential and transient housing. So we were promised, from what I can remember, several years ago, was a 50-foot barrier. The trees remain in place, and for there to be a natural barrier also with the space barrier. As of right now, it's basically two backyards touching each other. There's in a couple areas small trees that are no more than 4 feet, 5 feet tall, because they don't exceed the 5-foot fence that our neighborhood requires. And there's just no barrier between the two neighborhoods. As a homeowner there since 2019, when we purchased our home, we were between a couple different houses in the neighborhood. We chose our house. We were expecting to grow our family from 3 to 5 at the time, and we needed to be able to move into our house quicker. The house we chose, part was because of what we were promised with duplexes backing up to our neighborhood, also was with speed. So when we made that choice, we were going on a promise from the city that it was going to be a duplex residency next to it. That changed a couple years later. And then it changed again, and then it keeps changing. And so now I know they have the 167th Street project. A turn lane's really not going to be able to do that. If we bring in the 500 apartments that are projected on one side of the university, plus the new project that they're building, plus Tallgrass, there's 2 ways in and out of our neighborhood. There's a way out by the old cemetery, and I guess there's 3, but then right by the police department and off 167. It's getting extremely busy throughout. You go around a blind corner, there's kids there for a school bus every day that people fly through there. It's just, we like to make sure that the city's recognizing the issues with it, with the neighborhood, and addressing concerns. And while we've got ongoing projects, making sure that we're gonna have everything taken care of for a safe residency, and then also to make sure that what we've been promised is accomplished. So thank you for your time with that.
All right, thank you, Mr. McNair. Is there any other public comment? All right. Move to consent agenda. Is there an item on the consent agenda council would like to remove? Do I hear a motion to approve consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Johnson. We approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Council agenda or consent agenda passes. Would anyone like to remove an item from the planning and zoning consent agenda? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second McNair. We approve the planning and zoning consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Planning and zoning consent passes. Moving to new business. New business item number 1, consider accepting voluntary annexation with landowner consent.
Hi, this is a housekeeping item. At the last council meeting, we approved an ordinance annexing several properties in the northwest corridor of 175th and I-35. One of the property owners decided that she did not want to annex and wanted to wait for closing, and the property will come in after closing. This revised ordinance will just take that property out. All the other properties are still adjacent to the city, so it's allowed. So recommend accept the voluntary consent annexation agreements, consent annexation requests from the property owners identified, and adopt ordinance number 2876, amending ordinance 2874.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any public comment on this item? All right. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I'm sorry. Is there any discussion? Council. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second McNair. We accept the voluntary consent annexation agreements and consent annexation requests from the property owners identified within and adopt ordinance number 2876, an ordinance amending ordinance 2874.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember McNair.
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton.
Yes.
Councilmember Meade.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2876 passes. So that does it for regular session. We will move to council updates. Jim, did you maybe want to speak to Mr. McNair's, maybe kind of address some of the
I'm
concerns?
gonna have Tim do it.
Tim? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start with Tim.
Yeah.
Welcome, Tim McIntyre. Yeah.
So to my understanding is the contractor wanted to crush rock. Staff allowed them to do that. It's kind of an unusual situation. We don't really have a process for that activity. So we which the contractor's been receptive when we've gone out and asked them to do things. Unfortunately, they've just done things, without really checking with us first. And my understanding was the time of work that our code actually does allow things to go on until construction activities to go on until 10 p.m. So in our contracts, in Public Works, we have contracts with our contractor. We specifically say it's 7 until 7. So again, there's somewhat of a disconnect because we didn't have a contract with this person. So by code, again, it says 10. I mean, obviously, I think that's something that we need to change so there's not a gap in there. And in the meantime, we're going to put these type of activities underneath our land disturbance permit. So they have to come in and get a land disturbance permit for doing it. And then on the permit, we'll actually give them that time too. It says they have, 7 till 7 are the hours that they can be in operation. And having the permit then will give us the authority, to review what they're doing and bring it in line like this.
And there is going to be a landscape buffer between, the apartments and the houses, and that was part of the approved plan in 2019. It's just not, those things aren't done until the final step of the development.
So this was a learning experience, and
Yeah, it kind of
without
fell
our
through the
eyes
cracks,
across the
and we immediately, and Cohurst was really good about, we went out there and they stopped the rock crushing, and then, part of it was a really windy day, probably not the best judgment to do it on when there's 30-mile-an-hour winds. But they immediately brought out a water truck and did some mitigation, and they left the next day with the rock crusher. So it was just one of those things where we didn't have anything in code to require the permit, but we've since added it to land disturbance and public improvement permits, so now we can address that directly.
so we'll see that coming through planning and back to us in the next few months. Okay.
Well, no, you talking about the change?
Yeah.
No, we just added it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we just put it in there.
Okay.
We didn't change the code, we just.
You didn't change the LDC at all?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so the other thing that'll happen, they do have their plans in for construction on the structures and that. As part of that building permit review, we look for compliance of the construction site documents and landscape documents with what was approved in the, actually in the final development plan for that phase. So we'll look at that. But what Jim's referring to in that buffer, there is planned landscaping plus an 8-foot walking trail back there that is part of it. So that's what we'll be looking for, is the compliance with that activity.
Mr. McIntyre, do you have anything else, Tim? Well, I got you.
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. Community development, Dave?
I have nothing.
Parks and Rec, Jason?
Nothing from me.
Dave, Electric?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Chief?
I have nothing tonight.
Clerk, Renee?
I have nothing tonight.
Matt, award-winning finance director, Matt?
Nothing further tonight.
Amy?
Nothing tonight.
City attorney?
Nothing from me.
City administrator?
I wanted to thank Beth for her presentation. One of the things with Destination Downtown didn't contemplate that we are looking at in initial phases is doing a road diet downtown, where we can narrow down to 2 lanes or maybe 2 lanes with a turn lane and put 45-degree parking. And that was one of the things we discussed last week. I think it would work really well to increase parking downtown and take care of that problem and slow traffic down just through the historic district. So that's one of the things that Beth and that group are working on right now.
All right, move to council.
I don't have anything.
Councilman Johnson, no? Councilman McNair?
I think we covered the issue that was appropriate.
I'm glad, sometimes it's kind of you learn as you go, what you don't know, but.
I kind of think that it just probably a bad day to do it. Well, actually a bad week to do it. It had been going on for over a week. And I think if we can get the issue of the 7 to 7 covered, make sure that we're not letting that slip through the cracks again, I think we'll be good.
Thanks. Councilman Wade?
I also want to thank Beth and the rest of the chamber. I know Mr. Stockton is here too, and he has some interesting and great ideas for ways in which the downtown can help to support the rest of the community and be a place where people want to come down to. So I think, I speak for myself, but hopefully we're interested to listen to some of the ideas that they can bring. And, I know, as I expressed to him, his business is unique and adds an interesting flair to the downtown. So I appreciate all the work that he's done in bringing his business to Gardner and bringing it to downtown specifically. And also congratulations to the finance department. So I'm used to seeing this every year.
Right, yeah. Excellent. Council Vice President?
Jason,
Yes, ma'am.
Wynwood Park update. I saw that we now have sod removed for the what I assume is the basketball court because it is basketball court shaped. Are we still on track with that, and any updates on when that city project is going to be added to the website? I'm getting a lot of people asking, so I'd like to be able to direct them.
Sure. We just had our pre-con meeting last Thursday with them, waiting on rendering for that. I actually just got the new renderings for the playground today, because Nika's going to include those in the slideshow at the State of the City.
Oh, perfect.
So you get to see that there, and then we'll have them on our website. Target date is still Memorial Weekend, June 1-ish.
Okay.
All weather dependent, and we're also trying to utilize some of the material from the court to the playground as well. So equipment's in, it's just, can we get it done in time with the weather? So.
Awesome. And then I want to thank the city staff for the 167th Street meeting. It was one of the most well-attended meetings I've ever seen. A lot of public came out. We were busy from the start to end time with lots of information. City staff was great, answering all the questions, taking time with the citizens. So I really appreciate everybody there.
And I will give you kudos for being there the entire time and providing such an excellent representation for some of the rest of us. So.
Yeah, well, I was, I live on right near there,
I do
so
too.
I was curious too, and I know I get a lot of questions sometimes when stuff like that happens. I want to thank Chief Waldeck for the invitation to join the Citizens Police Academy. We had our first session last Tuesday. I look forward to the next couple months of learning. I did it back in 2015, but I know a lot has changed since then, so I'm really excited to go through it again. Officer Sisson did a great first meeting. I look forward to tomorrow night at the Crime Lab. And then in honor of the Autism Awareness Proclamation, I'm repping my Gardner Gold gear. Gardner Gold, amazing program here for our special population. They are donations, grants, totally volunteer group. Currently doing their fundraiser for the duck race, which is their biggest fundraiser, where we dump a whole bunch of rubber ducks into the lazy river at the pool. And right now we are doing a competition between Gardner Police Department and Fire District 1, who can sell the most ducks between March 17th and April 19th, when the Battle of the Badges blood drive is. So if you're interested in supporting Gardner Gold and want to see either your PD or fire department represented on their yearly shirt, go buy some ducks, support some good things. And that's it from me.
Thank you. Council President?
I think that's all covered.
Yeah.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay, and I just want to also thank the chamber. When Beth came on, we kind of met. One of the things that was important to me was the downtown, and we've worked for so many years to try. We could never get like a good downtown group together, and I think they've really done that, and they've done a great job with that. So now it's a lot easier to move forward with more of a united effort with the members of the downtown. And then of course, speaking of downtown, Mr. Stockton here, thank you for coming tonight, and he does have some great ideas for some events, and hopefully we'll be talking about that soon. But I appreciate everything he does down there. That's one of the first places I tell people about, and talking about our downtown and Gardner, the coffee shop, and his businesses as well. So thank you. So that's all I have as well, and we do have 2 executive sessions. We need to do these separately, I assume. So the first one, do I have a motion to consider entering into executive session to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege?
So moved.
Motion Deaton, second McNear. We recess into executive session to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege relating to data centers pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2, beginning at 8:10 p.m., returning to regular session at 8:30 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, abstain. We We are in executive session.
like, this is how barbers are. They're the talk of the town.
Literally, everybody around me started laughing because all my coworkers talk about how talkative I am. And the kid's mom's like, "Oh my God, you can't say that." And she goes, "I'm so sorry." Yes, she talks as much as soon. I was like, "Dude, I've never been diagnosed. Probably."
Like, if that was a thing when I was in school, sign me up.
Some of us, I've learned to get a really great haircut. It never happened. Not even know the language of the barber.
I've done a couple on that.
Well, the barbershop here in town,
Yeah.
they do a great job.
All right, it is 8:30. We will do our motion to back into regular
So
session.
moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second McNair. We go back into regular session. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Back in regular session. We do have a second executive session. Consider entering into executive session to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion Deaton, second Johnson, recess into executive session to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege relating to an agreement with KDOT pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2, beginning at 8:30. Did we get to 8:30? Returning to regular session at 8:35 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
You've already had your residence off, Mark.
5, do I have a motion to resume?
So moved.
Regular session?
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Baldwin, we return to regular session. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Anyone abstain? No? Okay. Return to regular session. Do I hear a motion to, what's the word?
Adjourn.
Adjourn, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Motion McNair, second Deaton, we adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.